So, I'll just give you a just little bit brief about myself also. Like, I don't think I actually formally introduced myself. Hi, my
Mm-hmm.
name is Bhuvanyu. I actually create all this sort of, finance content as well as business, sales and business content on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube. By education, I'm an engineer. I started out my career in most of the time in sales, but, slowly transitioned towards the marketing side of things. And what I'm truly interested about is, finance. And more recently, like truly just last week ago, I got introduced to the world of cryptos, blockchain, and financial technology domain. And
Okay.
that's why I thought that, but this conversation, again, you also have some similar interests. So this conversation may turn out to be pretty interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, let me introduce myself also. So basically, you already know my name. My name is Barnwal. I did my bachelor's and master's in biotechnology. Currently, I'm an AI engineer in a Tokyo-based company, Valuence Technology, where I'm building a SaaS enterprise level SaaS chatbot for my
Interesting.
company.
Interesting.
So this is the main area of my work. And apart from this, I have an interest in, of course, building a basic financial model, and I have worked on where I've worked on like others development project and all that stuff. And apart from this, I recently taken interest in blockchain and cryptos. I'm working how to develop and shift from Web 2 through Web 3 right now.
Wow. Wow.
I'm currently learning all this thing. Like it's been only 1.5 months so far,
Wow.
and that's it.
You
And
know,
also, I'm learning music also. I have an interest in music also.
interesting. Interesting. Yeah. You have a very multivariate personality. And
Yeah, I kind of like to explore things.
yeah, that's how we grow as human beings, So
Hmm.
I listened to this person known as Jordan Peterson. Have you heard of him?
Yes. I have read his book.
Yeah, so he often talks
Actually,
about this.
hmm. So I like the conversation. Have you seen there is this one particular video where Jordan Peterson and Daniel Kahneman? I think do you know Daniel Kahneman?
Yeah, Daniel Kahneman.
He's an
Thinking fast and
Daniel
slow.
Kahneman. Yes, exactly. The
Thinking,
one
yeah,
who have got
it's Kahneman. It's Kahneman.
Kahneman. Okay, sorry, my bad. So basically, he have done work like done his work on behavioral finance and all these things. So my
Yes.
BTech projects were there on this same principle. So I used to follow Daniel Kahneman and Jordan Peterson work.
Interesting. Interesting.
So you were
So
saying something about Jordan Peterson, right?
yeah, so he often speaks about this thing that a human being is a multivariate species, and if he just focuses on one aspect of his job, other aspects of it actually starts to lag behind. So individual has to find ways to actually grow and become a complete social human being. That's the core idea that he explores in all these talks that he does or anything that he's doing most of the time. That's like I listen to him very fondly. I'm a big fan. You could say. One thing I do want to ask
Actually,
you
I have some. I have. Mhm.
is that
Yes, yes.
you didn't mention like what was the time duration when you did your BTech?
Oh, sorry. I graduated in 2020.
Oh,
So I did
interesting.
my bachelor's and master's from 2015 to 2020. I'm recently graduated from IIT.
Oh, nice, nice.
So the fact you said actually, like human behaviors are really like as a human being are really curious. Like we tends to explore thing, and once you like do action on your curiosity again, then only you learn thing. Otherwise, human being is always curious. He
That's
always
right.
thinks about something, see something, okay, why this is happening. But once he takes the action, then only he can accomplish something. This is what I like. So far, I observed about myself and other people.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and currently you see at the like at this moment now, when you look at the Bill Gates or any other people like famous people, they're actually a tech giant or something. They're doing work in a very particular field, which is actually quite amazing. Okay, they are like
Yes,
doing a great work for the community and everything. But I
yes,
also believe that like in the past, if you see like there are many people. Look at this a scientist. Uh, they were a painter, they are a painter, they are a psychologist. They are into psychology. They are also a mathematician. So they
yes,
are working in a multiple aspect and all in the great things. instinct. Okay,
I
so
agree. I agree.
I don't know what happens in this throughout the evolution that human brain has started focusing on one thing, acting on which actually leads us to this great infrastructure that we have right now. But I think there's still something that we are lacking at this moment, that human as a like capacity, something. I don't know.
So I'll
I
just
just
share a
wonder about
story.
something.
Yeah, I'll
Yes,
share a
yes.
story. I know this thing. I know exactly what you are pointing to. So there is a concept,
Okay.
known as the generalist and a specialist. You must have heard of this term.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So
Jack, you're talking about Jack of all trade, master of none.
no. So we are in a different era altogether. Okay. We used to think that
Hmm.
jack of all trades, master of none, or master of one trade, jack of none. Now we are in a different era altogether because of the informational technology and information age that we are in. What had initially happened was human beings, and you very rightly pointed out that human beings used to be hunters, they used to be gatherers, they used to
Gather.
fight wars, there used to be warriors, they used to be philosophers, they used to write books and share their opinions, they used to be public speakers, orators in that time, like if you were
Yes.
to consider Greece and Rome. What happened was that human beings in the entire history of employment, or making money, they used
Hmm.
to work for themselves or maybe for their families. That's how the entire history of human beings is like. Now there is this gentleman, and you know the name of this gentleman, who said that, what, I'm not going to hire for my family. I'm going to look for another person and make him work for me. The name of that gentleman was Thomas, um, Thomas Edison. Yeah.
Thomas Edison.
Yes.
Okay.
No, 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 no. General Electric. Who actually founded General Electric? It was Thomas Edison, right?
Uh, Actually, it was General Electric was founded by JP Morgan, I guess, but they have used the invention of Tesla or Thomas Edison, probably. I'm not
Yeah, yeah,
quite
yeah.
sure.
So I'm right. I'm right. Thomas Edison. So Thomas Edison had actually partnered with JP Morgan. Essentially, he was his venture capitalist at that point in time.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So he created this concept of working for someone else. He introduced the very concept of jobs. Prior to that, there was no concept of jobs altogether. And during that time, industrial age was coming into place. So what ended up happening was human beings started to work for different organizations, and industrial age was growing. So they said that, what, we are not going to have to, we don't have to work for ourselves, or maybe we don't have to make trades amongst our families or amongst our communities. We can work for large companies, industries. And that's how the concept of specialist came into being. That one person will work at one task and focus on only that one task.
Hmm.
Now, with information age, human beings are able to design on their PCs. They're able to do video editing. They're able to tell stories. I consider myself to be a storyteller. I'm an analyst by heart, but I try to actually learn the skill of storytelling. So we are now bringing that entire scope of that multivariate generalist concept back. Let's take an example of Elon Musk. He's a brilliant designer. He's a
Hmm.
brilliant coder. He's a brilliant marketer. And the term that is used to represent that person, Elon Musk, is
Exactly.
known as neo-generalist. I would like after this call, I would highly recommend that you
Yes.
actually like Google this term neo-generalist. That will allow you to actually get more info in that thing. So that was the story.
Neo journalist.
Generalist, yeah.
Yes, yes, sir. I will take a look. Yes.
So tell me about the company that you work for, and what is it, the kind of problem it is that you're solving. And as a biotech engineer,
So,
like, yeah, please.
hmm. So, so my company work like it's more like this company actually have a offline retail store, and they are like their main business purchase old antique products and refurnish it and sell it back to the market. This is their main business. And in 2019, this company have started a technical division, Valuence Tech, where they are trying to build a business and build a service that they can sell it to the market. So
Okay.
they have started multiple business idea. They're working on multiple business idea, and the AI chatbot service is one of the idea that I'm working on, currently leading my team into this. So that's it.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
this is the main idea of this company, and that's it, I guess. Like, they have recently started in 2019 only. So we have a very small team from the India actually. We are actually 14 people from India working in the tech division, AI division mostly, and then
Okay.
few contractors from Vietnam, other places. That's it.
So you must be also working on machine learning as well, right? Machine learning because AI very much
Yes,
correlates to.
exactly.
Interesting. Interesting. So, like, can you
So
teach me the
it's
basic
more like
concepts?
this.
Can you teach me the basic concepts of machine learning? I would love to learn from you. You know, I'm really curious about that, and I'm not a computer science engineer. I'm an electrical engineer. So, yeah.
Hmm. Uh, like basic concept of machine learning is not like it's not that bigger thing actually. If you look into this, so there are certain things that you can directly grasp it from using a basic mathematical model,
Okay.
probability and statistics, regression. Okay.
Okay.
Once you get into a deeper level, like in a deep learning neural network, then only it comes a little bit harder to understand, grasp the how exactly the whole machine works.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you look at a normal thing, like let's say Zoom, uh, that's a very basic question. Okay. If you're going to buy a house, right? If you're going to buy a house, then like what are the parameter that you want to measure in order to buy the house? Okay. And since you have so many data and you know the your requirement, okay, you have to find the optimum weight that you can assign to all the parameter, so that it will fit to your final product. Okay, this is the what I want. If you add the proper weight, that's a basic regression model. Okay, that's a basic regressor. So that's also known as the machine learning model, regressor model. So it's nothing like it's not. It just seems like a buzzword, machine learning and all. But at the end, it's a basic mathematical model. Everyone has to understand that when they say machine learning, they have to understand the mathematics in order to understand the machine learning. So that's a
Okay.
big misconception I usually hear. I understand from the tech from the people. So they always think
Interesting.
machine learning is some kind of box
Magic.
or something.
Like a black box.
So this happened. This happens with me also. When I
Okay.
was learning machine learning in my second year, actually, I also had the same feeling. But
Okay.
at the end, it's all mathematical model.
Interesting. Interesting.
So what exactly like what exactly where exactly you're curious, like what exactly machine learning is,
No,
where how
I
this works?
have no clue.
Is it
I have no clue. So
okay?
anything that you
Okay.
begin with, I will actually grasp and learn from you. But I'll try to absorb as much as
Okay.
I can.
So I guess when you try to learn something now, like this is what I do right now. When I every time I try to learn something now, the first thing I try to learn is the what are the use case of the machine learning.
Okay.
Okay. So there are two things actually I
Your
two
video has
things what
paused.
machine learning usually solves. Okay.
Your
That
There's a lag
okay.
going on. So
Is it okay?
yeah, it's better now.
Ek minute, just give me a second.
Sure, sure. And I also want to know about biotech engineering. So these are the two things that I do want to know. Like one of my mentors did uh, his
Yes.
masters. One of my mentors actually did his masters in biotechnology, and I am very much
Okay.
curious. So I read upon CRISPR as a whole. So is it related to CRISPR? But again, we'll go back. We'll go back. Get back to that. Please tell me everything that I can learn and absorb from you in terms of machine learning.
Okay. Yes, sure, sure. So there are two main things about the machine learning actually when it comes to the application. Okay. The first thing is we call it supervised, and second thing is called unsupervised. Okay. So supervised learning is mainly that that if you have a data, how you're going to use this data and what should be the output of the data. Okay.
Okay.
If you're generating a database, then where you're going to use it. You don't have to work that much. You have to just build a model. And then there comes an unsupervised model. Unsupervised model is basically you have the data, but you actually do not know what to do with the data. You generate an insight and everything. Okay. And based on this insight, you build some model that you can use it in future. So these are the two main aspects of this like supervised and unsupervised model of in machine learning. Okay, these are the
Interesting.
two main things that usually company focuses on. And if you look into this current industry right now, they are mostly focused on supervised learning because they are generating data and they have some end goal and they're trying to optimize their process in a way so that they can use it for their product. And at the same time they're also generating some random data that they're not sure which when they are going to use it, but they can use it in future, generate insight, do A/B testing or something. So that's it. This is the main use case. And based on this, there is a multiple models are there, multiple way to generate an insight, build a model, calculate the accuracy and all. That's it. This is the whole story, and
Okay.
that inside is the only technical part. That's it.
Wow.
It's not
Wow.
that it's not that of like bigger thing as you
It's
think.
no rocket science.
Just a
It's no
basic.
rocket science.
It's no rocket science. No rocket science.
Okay.
If a general person gives a, I believe if a general person give a like 20 to 25 hour, so he can learn the basics of the machine learning. He will be able to build a basic model easily. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure about this.
And any resource, if a person, decides that they are going to begin with machine learning, any basic resource that you can recommend?
Yeah, sure. So at this moment actually I'm not very sure how to like because I have many resources I don't remember as of now.
That's okay.
But if you want to learn the mathematics of the machine learning actually, so then there is this particular course by Andrew Ng, co-founder of Coursera,
Yes,
CEO
yes,
and
yes.
co-founder of Coursera.
Yes.
Okay, so his course is quite famous, but it's for the people who actually understand and know how these algorithms as an
Work.
overall works, and then you get into this functionality how exactly the mathematics work. So the first thing I would suggest is if someone who can learn the basics of Python and learn basics of Jupyter and all. So I guess there is proper documentation already provided by the from uh, Python resource group and all.
Okay.
You can
Okay.
directly learn it from there.
Interesting. Interesting. Wow. Good. Good. Okay. So I have a very and this comes from a marketing perspective that I had heard about
Mm-hmm.
Facebook's algorithm when it comes to running ads. What it does,
Running ads.
running ads. So you know that
Mm-hmm.
Facebook is an advertising company, right? You and I
Yes,
can
yes,
agree on that, right? Now,
yes,
what
yes. I
usually
totally
happens
agree
is,
on this.
um, if you start to run ads, let's say you put in 10,000 rupees, you specified this is the demographic, this is the location of the person that I'm going to that I want the ads to be circulated, and then you provide in other certain metrics. What it does is,
Mm-hmm.
once the metrics have been set in, the first time the ad runs, it extracts data, and based on that data,
Mm-hmm.
it identifies how many people are going to click on it, how many impressions have been generated, and what kind of people actually paid the most attention to it. This is the first
Okay.
time. Every single time, the person who is running the ads, essentially the science behind it, is that the software itself you know learns which type of a person would be the best target for that ad. And this is something that
Mm-hmm.
I actually heard from a marketer's perspective. So I'm not going to go in a very technical aspect, but the fact is the algorithm itself learns, and it is somewhat related to, you could say, machine learning, but I'm not sure.
Yes,
I
it is
want your
a.
perspective.
So basically, in this case, now where machine learn itself. Okay. So I told you about the regressor model. It seems
Yes.
like a regression basic model, but when
Okay.
it comes to optimizing the process, finding the particular weightage that you say, like, if machine learns, what does
Yes.
it? What if you look at the mathematical term? What does
Okay.
it mean by learning? The learning means is that you just change the weightage of some parameter.
Yeah.
Okay, and that
Yeah.
weight gives you the better result, right?
Right.
That's the main motive. So there are certain processes are there in mathematics, like Gaussian process. Okay,
Yes.
uh, so in machine learning there is this famous algorithm. It's a method actually,
Okay.
uh, back uh, back propag back propagation something.
Okay.
Okay, so using this model actually, what it does is it calculates the error at the current point, and it changes the based on this error. It uses it changes the value with some alpha, and it calculate the error again. If there is some major changes decided by the location or something, so it
Okay.
goes back on and on. So this is how it basically does. So it's
Interesting.
not like it's basic about mathematics model again. Uh,
Interesting. Interesting.
what like I also understand, but as a someone like who are you are in like in a marketing and you are not a technical background. So
Yes.
when you hear such word where machines learn itself, what is your impression as such? Like, what do you think?
So my impression
How
is
do you
that
think this?
okay, okay. So my impression is that a machine basically, as a neural network, it
Mm-hmm.
connects the dots. There's some kind of a pattern recognition
Exactly.
going on behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
and the more data you put into it, the more
Yes.
the process by itself optimizes itself. That's how I understand machine learning.
Exactly. So it's exactly the same, but if you ask any technical guy who actually technical guy like us, so we usually think of it as a mathematical model also. Okay, so these might be happening in the mathematics. Okay, in a mathematical way, there must be something going on with the parameter. If you add more data, there will be a bias on variance, and based on this, there things are changing. So that's it actually.
Okay, okay. Interesting. I actually
By
got
the,
to learn a lot. Yeah. Yes, please ask. Please ask.
by the way, how did you get into you're in marketing, right? Marketing and sales
Okay.
pitching and all.
So,
What is your story?
okay. So my story is pretty simple. Is that I was an engineer, especially in electrical and electronics. So that was the field.
Okay.
So now my college by itself, did not get any company that was in core engineering, and I particularly did
Mm-hmm.
not even enjoy that. See, most of the time, or most of my time was spent on soldering and looking at the microprocessors of all these
Mm-hmm.
circuits. Though it was interesting, but it was not something that I got really curious about. Whereas, and at that point in time, the field of digital marketing was actually blowing up. I used to intern for a lot of companies. I used to write content. I used to write blogs for them, both these companies.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a lead generator for certain startups. I did that. Throughout that process, I realized that I have a very basic level of comfort there. When I'm speaking with someone, I'm very much comfortable. I am able to ask questions. I'm able to make the other person get engaged. I can engage the other person. Now only you can say
Mm-hmm.
that. I don't want to be a humble bragger, but I hope I'm able to engage you in the conversation. And through that, opportunities started aligning up in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I consider sales to be one of the most valuable skills after coding or programming, because essentially what you're doing, even if you're making content, you are selling yourself. You are selling the idea of
Exactly.
what you are selling. So that's how I got started.
That's great actually. So as a matter of fact, I usually like to travel actually. I travel places and all. So the idea is when when I started traveling alone, like I did my first solo traveling back in 2020, just
Okay.
before the COVID happens.
Okay.
Okay, so that was the first time when I got out of my comfort zone and interacted with the people. Okay,
Okay.
so that's when I kind of like started interacting with the people, understanding their story, expressing myself in a form of story. That's actually a like like something that you cannot learn it directly. No one can teaches you directly. You
Yes.
have to experience it.
You
And
learn
after
it
this,
through your own
I do a
curiosity.
experience. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So that's when I started exploring more and started talking to more people and like see things in their perspective also. So that's a part of, I guess, like when you sell something, or so you also have to understand what the other guy is actually thinking and all. So
You have to put
that's
them
really great, I
in
guess.
their shoes. You have to put them in your shoes, or you have to put yourself in
Yes.
their shoes. Both ways
Yes,
happens.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Now coming to biotechnology, I'm very curious about
Yes.
like what do they teach in biotechnology, and what is the scope of technology as a whole when it comes to biotechnology? Because I'm really curious. Our own human biology, I consider it to be like a machine, and we don't know yet. We have not discovered the limits of what science can do when it comes to biotechnology, and I'm really curious. So please tell me about that.
Uh,
Anything, any
that's
experiences?
actually, actually there is a very particular thing. I exactly don't know how to answer your query. I mean, question actually, to be honest.
Okay,
So,
I will reframe my
hmm,
question if you want.
yes, exactly. Can you reframe? Can you ask again?
Okay,
What is the
so
question actually?
what is biotechnology? What do they teach in biotechnology? Like as a student, you studied it for 5 years. So what kind of subjects were there? And if you actually spent
Okay.
a significant time, maybe you created your products, because as engineers we have to submit those products, right? If they
Mm-hmm.
were in biotechnology, what were they, and what do you see the potential? Will you be able to answer now?
Okay. Yes, yes, sir. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
So basically, you can think of it as when we joined as a biotechnology, actually, as a student. Okay. Uh, we were like 48 people joined as a that program, okay, in biotechnology, but in that course. And to be honest, we like, except few people, many of us had no idea what exactly is happening, because based on our rank we got the college and all and something. Okay. So once we get into this, then only in our second year we got to know, okay, what exactly is biotechnology and what are the core subjects and how exactly it is. So when it comes to in IIT Kharagpur in biotechnology, so there are like, uh, in second third year there are basic fundamental courses are there for the biotech, and it teaches you basic biological thing, like basic courses in biology that actually being taught in MBBS also.
Okay.
That's the best part.
Okay.
And from third year onward, they get into a more technical part. So in our biotechnology, there are two kind of lab actually, that called the wet lab and the dry lab. Wet lab belong to where you have to do the experiment, perform the experiment with the test tube and all, something. And the dry lab is basically you have to write a code. It's write a code on the genomics and protein data structure and all everything, to get an insight, to understand the protein structure. Okay. So it involves multiple things at the same time. So if you're in biotech actually, and if you have a knowledge particularly in electrical department, or from the CS department, or any mechanical department, because biotech as a whole, you cannot solve the problem with only the biotech. You need to have a particular other knowledge at the same time. So once you join biotechnology in any prestigious college, so you will get you will get a diversified knowledge, not only in the biotech but also in the coding profile from CS department, and from the uh, like you have some courses from the mechanical or the electrical. You get to learn all this thing, so that you can consolidate all this knowledges and to into one product, and build something that can be useful for the humankind in future. So that's the only goal right now. And when it comes to a placement and all, so there I don't see any particular company coming to our college for, especially for the biotech role. Most of the companies coming from the software,
Yes.
and but there are huge demand in for MS and PhD in abroad, or even in India also.
Interesting.
So those people who are actually pursuing biotech, even my batchmate, they are more they got into a good colleges for they're doing MS or PhD from Belgium, Germany, Switzerland, or even US, Canada, and all. So that's the main scope that I usually see when it comes to a future goal. Actually, if someone has. Otherwise, most of us are actually working in software data, and there are one or two guy actually who's actually working in data. Uh, Sorry, a biotech data company. So there's also a very specific demand also here itself. So in order to analyze all the biotech data like genomic sequence, protein
Yes.
structure and all, okay, you
Yes.
need to have a basic knowledge and basic biotech understanding. So that's happened.
Okay. So last year the news came out that an AI was able to uh, break down the protein folding structure. Did you hear about that?
Yes, yes, yes. So my
Uh,
so basically my MTP project was based on this.
oh,
So
please
my
explain.
MTP, my MTP project was to find out. So I had this protein sequence. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
I had this protein sequence, and based on the protein sequence, I had to identify what are their structure and whether these two protein will interact with each other or not. So since like it was a very MTP project, and since the COVID happens and all, so I had to build a model for the only secondary protein structure, and I had to find out whether these two protein sequence, based on only the sequence I have, whether these two protein will interact or not. So I guess you're talking about recently the Google AI lab. There is
Yes.
so
Yes.
he have built a model, deep learning model that actually predict the structure of the any protein sequence, tertiary, secondary, and all everything.
Okay.
Hmm. So basically, if you look into this now,
Yes.
in
Yes.
protein, the protein interaction is very important for in when it comes to a uh, like biotech or any, like if you develop a vaccine or something, right? If you develop a vaccine, the protein interaction is very important. What
Okay.
happens is there is a particular we call it epitope. Actually, we call it epitope, that particular area that actually binds to a certain region. Okay, and if it binds, you can extract it, remove it, or break it, whatever you can do it with the particular enzyme, adding by
Yes.
adding enzyme and all.
Okay.
Okay, you can do this. So in
Okay.
order to
Interesting.
do this, you have to find out which are the two kind of protein actually interacting with each other. And since there is so many protein structure, there are so many proteins, enzymes, everything is available. Okay,
Yes.
you cannot perform experiment on one to understand. Okay, this is not working because there are so
So
many
there are
permutation and combination.
permutation and combination. Yes, exactly. I was
Yes,
about to say.
exactly.
Okay.
Okay, there are
Yeah.
so many of things. So many.
Okay.
So what this AI model do actually, once they build a structure, once they calculate the probability, okay, these are the two protein that more likely to interact. Okay,
Yeah.
once you
Yeah.
can find that, so you have that sample. You have now the lesser sample set. You can test the experiment on this. So basically, developing a vaccine or any medicine is becomes easier for us. So this is the main advantage, like most main use case of biotech, I can say right now. That comes under dry lab, wet lab, both combined.
Wow. Wow. Like, I'm. You see, this is a completely new field for me, and I'm truly speechless. I have no words, and I'm like blindingly curious when it comes to biotechnology as that, because uh, I am like I spent a little bit of time studying about CRISPR. I'm sure you must have heard of CRISPR, right?
I know. Uh, I do. I'll be very honest with you right now. I'll be very honest with you.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'll be so in a when we I was doing my bachelor's and master in biotech.
Yeah.
So I was that time I was mostly interested in data science, machine learning, financial model, and all. So I
Right.
was working. So have you heard about this college, VG Som, Vinod Gupta School of Management?
No, I have not.
So this is the MBA college. Is quite famous.
Okay.
Like you have to give a cat to get entrance into it. It's under in ID Kharagpur also. So
Okay.
I was working. I did my BTP and MTP project, BTP project in VG Som only.
Okay.
So there are very when it comes to biotechnology, when people are pursuing biotechnology, even in our college, there are very less people. In my batch particularly, there were like 50 to 60%, which was actually quite high compared to other batch before and after. Okay,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
like 50-60% actually people have actually pursued biotechnology, but most of us actually uh, like didn't pursue the biotechnology as such in a long run.
Let
So
me.
uh,
I'll interrupt you here. I'm really sorry for doing that. But the reason for
it's
that
okay.
is, like when it comes to India, we actually come from an not a very strong economical backing. You see,
Mm-hmm.
Every parents want
Yes,
their
I can.
every parent wants their child to become an IITN or become a very successful engineer so that they earn money. The incentive is to actually earn
Yes.
money. Now we, like, at least 5 to 10 years from now, we will be seeing a new era of engineers or doctors who will be curious about all these things and will be using
Yes.
technology to doing this, because India will actually become a very, at least a very high growth nation. That's how I believe. That's how I'm looking at the structure, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking to some of the successful entrepreneurs out there. That's why I'm like, I'm really curious about biotechnology. I wish I would have taken, like, I never got the chance. And electrical engineering is something, like, at least the way that they taught me in my own college, it was 20-year-old technology. It was 20 years old. There was no cutting edge technology that was being taught. And that's why I lost my own curiosity when it comes to that thing. That's why, you being an IT and you have studied at a premier institute, I want to learn anything that you can tell me, because you are a smart guy. Obviously, you are definitely smarter than I am. You were able to prove your metal when it comes
Uh,
to.
this I don't know what to say, like the way you say about this,
No,
but
it
anyways,
is an achievement in itself. You see, becoming an IITian, it's an achievement. You actually, competed and outperformed lakhs of other students. So that's why I salute you. I'm not joking. I'm not
totally
joking.
salute. I understand. Okay, so basically, to be honest, like I hardly remember anything as of now. You know, it's been like already
2 years.
1 and 2, almost 2 years has been passed, and like
Yeah.
I was already not interested in pursuing biotechnology as such. You know,
That's okay.
so
That's okay.
that's the case. But I do want to like, in case if you want, I know a few people that are actually doing a great work in biotechnology in any particular field that you want. I can connect you with such people. You can like, yeah, you can interview it, you can interview it for your YouTube channel and all everything. That's will I can connect you directly with, actually, with such
Yeah,
people.
that would be like, I would be really glad if you do that. It will
I
actually,
can
like, I will
connect you.
learn a lot, because
Hmm.
it won't be the most viewed video on YouTube, because we are talking in extreme depth. People are watching
Yes.
YouTube, at least in India, people are watching YouTube for the 5 minute, 10 minute dopamine burst. But I want to create a space on YouTube wherein, when I'm creating content, I want to go in depth, and
Hmm.
it has to exist on a different dimension altogether. See,
Yes,
even the
exactly.
smartest of the smartest folks, are not able to express themselves, fully with the full freedom when it comes to creating content on YouTube, because of the fact that they have to cater to an audience. Me, on the other
Yes,
hand, I
exactly.
don't really care about that. I want to create content that is going to add value. And this conversation actually added a lot of value for me. Like, I feel like, I learned so many things from you. That's
Yeah.
how I look at it.
I'm glad that I could help you. I also learned a lot. I guess, you know what, this is the first time, like usually, like this is the first time after a while that I'm meeting someone directly and like having a proper discussion and like talking something very different. And to be honest, like this is like literally after a while that I've been discussing about a biotech. You know, now that I think about it, like it's been 2 years. I just, whatever I've learned, I almost forgot. And calling myself a biotech engineer is actually a little bit embarrassing at this as this moment. But okay, it's a part of a life. You learn, you forget. It's okay. I don't
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
thing for this.
Just have a curious and open mind. You see, you have an interest in music. Talk about that. Let's talk about your interest in music. We have 10 minutes now. We can talk about that. So,
No,
how did
sure,
you
sir.
get started in music? What brought you in there? Like, is there any symphonies or melodies? Is there an instrument that you play? Tell me about that.
Oh, so like, by the way, I just wanted to know, like, what are the things that you actually mentioned that interest you in this for the meeting?
Um, Nothing like that. I had no idea. I had a complete open mind. I'm just going to talk and I'm just going to listen. That's all I had thought.
Okay,
I had a complete open mind. That's why I'm just totally curious.
okay, that I understand. So basically, this happened with me like back then when I was in college, actually, right? So I was always like I was always wanted to learn a music instrument. So in college, it wasn't possible, like because I couldn't give us a proper time and all something. uh, financial problem and all everything, because learning a new thing requires like patience, money, and everything is required. So I couldn't do it all this thing at that time. So once I graduated from my college, I like went to Varanasi for 8 months, stayed there, and I learned basic flute actually. So I'm still learning right now. So as of now, I just kind of look for the people who are actually learning, who are working into music industry or learning any instrument, like on a beginner level or expert or whatever, so that we can collaborate or learn together and work together or something. So currently I'm in Bangalore. I'm also looking in Bangalore. Also, I'm looking for such kind of people with whom I can connect and learn together something. So yes, I when you ask about the like what music instrument I play, so I'm currently learning flute.
Okay.
Okay, so I learned like 8 month. I took a class for 8 months in Varanasi, learned basics. That's it.
You see, like even when it comes to that, see, one thing that I always tell people that actually come onto my podcast or all the people that I
Mm-hmm.
learn from itself is that they always say one thing that be consistent. Right? Once your basics are set in right, just stay
Mm-hmm.
consistent, and you
Yes.
will be able to at some point in time you will be able to master it. Now, have you heard? Have you read this book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell?
No, no. I'm just looking, but I have heard about this
Yeah,
Outlast.
so you must have heard of the 10,000 hour rule, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so in order to become the top 1% in your field, you just need to practice 10,000 hours. Once that is achieved,
Hmm.
you will be able to do whatever it is that you want. That's how it all goes.
This is actually quite true, but there is also one other book I don't remember the name.
Okay.
So in that book, actually, he have mentioned in order to learn something that can give you basic knowledge and adequate knowledge so that you can master that particular thing. Actually, you require
Yes.
to have at least 20 hours. Do you know about this?
No, I did not know that. But I
So
think like it has been disputed also. Like the Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours thing has been disputed a lot of times. But
yes, yes.
most of the time, it actually holds true. Like people who are at the
Yeah,
top of their field have
it
said,
will always hold true. It will always hold true. Because like if you dedicate 10,000 hours of your time, then obviously you will master it. Because dedicating a 10,000 hours is not easy. You have
yes,
to be consistent, you have to be patient, you have to be like disciplined to do all this thing. If you can manage that,
yes,
10,000 hour is like literally it makes you a 1% of the, like
1% of the 1%. Exactly.
1% of the 1%. Exactly. That makes
Yes.
sense. But it's like when you look at this now, in order to master, like sometime I believe that you don't have to master everything. You Sometimes you just have to know. You have to
Okay.
find out, okay, what are your interests. Like if I have a interest in, like as you said, you have a interest in cryptocurrency, right? You
Yes.
blockchain.
Yes.
Okay, you cannot expect in order to become a crypto expert or blockchain expert that you are going to give a 10,000 hours. It's
Yeah.
not expected.
Yes.
But I can pretty sure if you give her like 20 25 hours of consistent work with patience, okay, you can learn enough to educate yourself further to a level that you can call yourself master, that
Yes.
1%. Okay, this is
Yes.
what I believe in it. This is what I believe. Like uh, at the same time, like this is how I actually learn if anything. Every time I focus on something, I want to learn something, I always try to find a, I mean, best resource and like stick to it for at least 20 to 30 hours. That's it.
Yeah,
In a
that's a
basic
lot of
30 hours.
people have said. Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right here. So,
This is what I do actually.
so there is this book by Cal Newport, Deep Work. I have not read it. I have heard very good reviews. Have you read this
Mm-hmm.
book, Cal Newport's Deep Work?
Cal News deep work.
Cal
एक
Newport.
minute. Just can एक
Yeah,
minute.
sure,
Just give me a second.
sure.
Actually, there is one website actually.
Okay.
I want to mention there is a website called a Sort Form or something. Have you heard about this?
No, I have not. Can you add that in the
So
chat? In the chat, I
yes,
would
sure,
want
sir.
to see.
So basically, I was testing this website, Sort Form.
Okay.
Where is this website? Just let me. I have saved it somewhere. It's quite interesting. I'll tell you the best thing about this. Deep work by Carl Newport, right? Newport. Am I audible? You're mute. You're mute. You're mute.
Actually, there's some background noise. That's why I'm on mute.
It's all right. So I'll share this. So I recently got look into this website, Short Form. So what it does actually, they have like curated books, and they have made a chapter based on each book chapter, and they also have explained in their own term with the other logics and related it to the other books also, and then they have given a particular query and all. So the deep work is actually kind of, actually I put it in a bookmark. I'm going to read this one, deep work. I did it yesterday. I did it yesterday night only, and now you are mentioning it. It motivates me further. Actually, I'm going to read it. I'll start it today. Actually, I'm definitely going to start.
Interesting, interesting, interesting.
That's like it's coincidence or whatever, but yeah, it's going to. I'm going to start it.
Okay, okay.
That's great.
So I believe we have been speaking for almost an hour, and I had a hard stop at 7. I have to leave. I have some prior engagement. I would
Okay,
love to
okay, sure,
connect
sure,
with
sure,
you.
sure.
I will love to connect with you. Please actually, connect with the folks. We will talk on Slack more. Let me know anything. If I can help you out, I will connect you with anyone that I can in my own network. But
Okay, okay.
yeah, please, please. I loved speaking with you. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
I
I
got
love
a
it.
lot of I got a lot of valuable info. I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful.
Thank you. I also learned a lot from you. Like it's been a while that I've talked all this thing about with anyone actually. So
It's my
it's quite
pleasure.
interesting.
It's my
Um, so it's thanks for the, like you have, like you are literally what can I say, you are good, you can be do you like always take a podcast or something kind of thing on your
It's
channel?
usually like it's like every Sunday I try to hold one podcast. Every Sunday I
Okay.
try. It's like a discipline I am trying to build, and I try to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that every Sunday I'm holding a one podcast on my YouTube channel.
Okay, that's great. You're actually like you're doing a great job actually, I can certainly say. I must say.
Thank you, thank you. That means a lot.
Okay.
That means a lot.
Yeah, let's connect in case if you're in Bangalore, let
I
me know.
will be. I will be. I'm telling you, I will be in Bangalore. It will be in somewhere around in April or May. I'm not yet
April.
sure. April or May. I have some projects that I need to finish up, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm considering to move in Bangalore. You see, that city is becoming Silicon Valley of India.
Yes,
I
exactly,
would
you
be. I
should.
would be a fool not to actually go to Bangalore.
I would suggest, I can like, let me know when you come actually. We can hang out here actually. I believe that we can have a good time here.